The sun was only a whisper on the horizon when Elias heard it, that deep, trembling roar rolling over the savannah like thunder from another lifetime. He froze on his porch, coffee trembling in his hands, eyes scanning the amber sea of grass beyond his farmhouse. For 10 years, that sound had lived only in his memory, the voice of a lion he once called Kuma. A decade ago, he had saved the beast from a poacher's snare, a decision that changed both their lives forever. And now, that same voice had returned, deeper, stronger, but unmistakably his. Elias stepped forward, heart pounding like war drums as the shape in the distance grew larger, and larger still. Then he saw them, two smaller silhouettes walking beside the great lion, their tiny tails flicking in rhythm with his. Cubs. Tears welled in his eyes as realization struck. Kuma had returned, and he was not alone. The king of the plains had come home. Stay till the end, because what happened next changed everything we thought we knew about loyalty in the wild. 10 years earlier, the sky had bled with fire as dusk fell across the Masai plains. Ranger Elias Walker, a man molded by dust and duty, trudged through the grasslands following a trail of vultures. He had seen too many tragedies in his years, poachers' traps, starving cubs, vanishing herds, but nothing prepared him for what lay ahead. There, caught in a snare near a dying acacia, was a young lion, muscles trembling, eyes wide with terror, mane barely formed. The wire had eaten deep into his flesh, staining the earth with blood. Elias dropped to his knees, heart aching, and whispered softly, "Easy, easy now, boy." He had every reason to fear the beast. One wrong move could mean death, yet something in those amber eyes begged for mercy. It took hours to cut the wire, his hands shaking as the lion's ragged breaths filled the air. When the final strand snapped, the lion collapsed into his lap, too weak to flee. Elias stayed with him through the night, tending the wound, whispering lullabies to the wild. Days turned into weeks as the lion slowly healed. He began to walk again, to hunt again, to live again. Elias named him Kuma, meaning brave one. And though they shared no language, they shared something deeper, a silent bond between man and wild, forged in pain and trust. But the wild never keeps its debts for long. The rains came late that year. The savannah cracked and whispered under the weight of thirst. Elias hadn't seen Kuma in days, not since the young lion's wounds had healed enough for him to walk beyond the camp. He'd grown stronger, bolder, every sunrise echoing with his newfound roar, a sound that rolled across the valley like a promise. Elias would sit outside his tent, watching the lion's silhouette fade into the horizon each morning, proud and terrified all at once. Then one morning Kuma didn't return. Not at dusk, not by the next dawn. The valley was silent. Days turned to weeks. Elias followed tracks, listened for roars, called out his name in the wind, but the wild gave no answer. He found only traces, an old paw print, a strand of mane snagged on thorn, ghosts of a life once intertwined with his own. The ranger said it was normal. Lions move on. The strong find prides. The weak vanish. But Elias couldn't let go. Each night, he'd stand outside under the stars, listening, imagining Kuma's low growl somewhere out there calling back. Years passed. The world moved on. His hair grayed, his steps slowed, and the radio crackled with new stories of rescued rhinos, relocated elephants, and lost lions. But Kuma was never mentioned. Sometimes, when the wind howled through the acacia trees, Elias would swear he heard that familiar roar again, faint, far away, but real enough to make him step outside. But it was always just the wind. The wild had taken Kuma back. Until that morning 10 years later when the roar returned. And this time, it wasn't a dream. The morning the roar returned, Elias's world seemed to stop breathing. The air hung heavy with heat and memory. His hands trembled as he set down his mug, his old dog whining softly beside him, sensing the shift in the air. Through the haze, a familiar shape emerged on the ridge, larger, broader, scarred by time. A lion. But not just any lion. It was him. Kuma. Elias stepped into the open field, heart hammering like a drum. 10 years of silence collapsed into this one fragile moment. The lion paused. Their eyes met, two worlds colliding in silence, man and beast staring across a decade of distance. Then Elias saw them, two cubs stepping cautiously from behind Kuma's legs. Tiny, bright-eyed, curious, the next generation. Kuma gave a low rumble, not a warning, but a greeting. The same sound he'd made all those years ago when Elias freed him from the snare. Elias felt tears burn his eyes. He whispered, "You remember me, don't you?" The lion stepped closer. His cubs followed, their tiny paws sinking into the dust. The camera of life seemed to slow, every heartbeat, every breath, every crunch of grass beneath their feet. Kuma stopped only a few meters away. The air between them shimmered. Then, with a deep exhale, the old lion bowed his head. Elias could barely breathe. He raised his hands slowly, trembling, and for a fleeting second, just one, their worlds touched again. Man and lion, bound by something ancient and unseen. The cubs brushed past their father's legs, sniffing curiously at Elias's boots, fearless, as though they too somehow understood. And then, as gently as he came, Kuma turned back toward the horizon. The cubs followed. The king did not roar this time, he didn't need to. His silence spoke louder than thunder. Elias stood motionless, his heart both breaking and healing at once. He whispered softly to the wind, "Thank you for coming home, my friend." The wild had returned what it had once taken, not in body but in gratitude, in legacy, in blood. 4 days after Kuma's visit, Elias felt as though the air itself had changed, richer, quieter, filled with a sacred kind of stillness. Each dawn, he'd walk to the ridge where they had stood, the prints still pressed faintly into the dust, as if the earth refused to let them go. He'd close his eyes and still hear that deep, steady breathing, not from memory, but as though the wild itself had learned his name. Some called it a miracle, others coincidence. But Elias knew better. Gratitude, even in the wild, finds its way home. As he turned to leave, a breeze swept through the valley, gentle, almost playful, carrying the faintest echo of a lion's roar. He smiled, eyes glistening. "Goodbye, old friend," he whispered. "You kept your promise." Because in the heart of the wild, love is never lost, only passed on. Would you have done the same, if it were you?